Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. It's Wednesday, 11th of February 2015, and you are listening to Radio IMWS, broadcast from Al Hikmah Centre in Batley, West Yorkshire, in the United Kingdom. The time is 2 minutes after 9 o'clock, and for the next hour, you will be listening to Education Matters, our fortnightly discussion and debate program about educational issues. This is an interactive program, and listeners are welcome to phone or text in with your questions, comments, or suggestions. Our telephone hotline is, if you want to ring in and speak to us, the telephone number is 01924 505629. I'll repeat that, 01924 505629. And if you wish to text or WhatsApp us, you may do so on 0746 080 9218. That is 0746 080 9218. I am Ayub Bismillah, your host for the Education Matters show, and tonight's educational topic is about school governors, and in particular, we will be discussing the role of the chair of school governors. Every Kirklees school has a governing body consisting of some 9 to 20 governors. The governing body usually decides on the number. There are over 2,500 school governors who are elected or appointed from parents, staff, Kirklees Council, and the local community. In church schools, governors are elected or appointed by either the Catholic Diocese or the Church of England Diocese of Wakefield. And usually head teachers are also governors. With me in the studio is a chair of a local primary school who will be telling us about his experiences, roles and responsibilities. Let me introduce our guest to Radio IMWS. We have with us Brother Wajid Khan, who is chair of governors of none other than our very own Warwick Road Primary School.
Alhamdulillah.
I am delighted that you have been able to join us tonight, Brother Wajid. Welcome to Radio IMWS.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother Wajid has been a parent governor at the school for about nearly 3 years, I believe.
Yeah, we were just discussing it, weren't we?
Yes,
Yeah.
I thought it was less, but obviously it's more. Nearly 3 years. During which time, and just very recently, and we're talking about only weeks ago, the school underwent an Ofsted inspection, would you believe? So, Brother Wajid,
Yep.
tell us about the inspection and how it went.
Alhamdulillah. Firstly, I'd like to sort of congratulate all the staff, the pupils, the parents and everyone, the rest of the governors for all their efforts and everything, because it's been a hard slog, actually. There's the changes in the Ofsted and the changes in the whole education arena have put so much pressure on governing bodies and teaching staff, and everything is constantly like targets and this, that and the other. So alhamdulillah, it was a challenge, but mashallah, we did very well. The grade that we got was good with outstanding elements. So inshallah, hopefully that'll give us another firm foundation for us to actually build upon again.
That is really good news. And may I, on behalf of Radio IMWS, also congratulate Warwick School, to all its staff, pupils, parents and governors for this excellent achievement. It's absolutely well deserved, and I know how hard it is, because the previous 2 Ofsted inspection, I was the head teacher there.
Oh, yes.
And it's really pleasing to note that the school is going from strength to strength.
Alhamdulillah.
The 2 inspections that I had with Ofsted, they were good overall, and mashallah, now it's good with some outstanding elements. Yeah. Which areas, can you remember, were the outstanding elements?
The pupil safety, safeguarding, and pupil behaviour and attainment were outstanding.
MashaAllah, that's brilliant, really.
And the elements that were good, basically, the discussions that we had with Ofsted were that because we'd put in a lot of new policies and new processes in place, they felt that we hadn't had enough time to embed them, basically. I mean, as you've just noted, with the new head teacher and things like that. So they were saying, look, we need to give you time to assess the, effects of these changes before we could say that they are excellent. So in that sense, actually, the recommendations that they've made, the reports available online and everything, the recommendations that they've actually made are actually minute, really, compared to what they could have said to us and what have you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if I was the inspectors, I would have recorded outstanding in all areas.
Yeah. I mean,
I know how hard the school has worked over the last couple of years.
No, mashallah, from the Firm Foundation, yourself and other governors who have, mashallah, been there for a very long time, who have contributed immensely. The foundation was built from there, and it started to obviously grow. What we need to recognise, actually, is the Ofsted framework and everything has changed dramatically. Yes. The criteria has changed.
They're always raising the bar every year, aren't they?
Yes, definitely.
And in that context, it's brilliant to have that achievement.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely. In fact, for our listeners, I think if you're not aware, the inspection process takes into account a number of areas, key areas. One of them is the achievement of pupils at the school.
Yep.
So the results are really important. And I know Warwick Road, is not failing in that department.
No,
the results have been brilliant each and every year for many years that I can remember.
Yeah.
And alhamdulillah, mashallah, it's continuing in that vein. Also, it looks at the quality of teaching in the school.
Yep.
And I know for a fact, and you'll be able to actually confirm that, the teaching quality or the quality of teaching at Warwick Road is really good. We've got some really excellent, charismatic teachers there.
Definitely. And they're passionate. I mean, when we found out, an example of that is when we found out that Ofsted was coming, because we knew
it was imminent, wasn't it?
Ofsted
for a long
was
time.
Imminent, and so alhamdulillah, we were building up to it for a while. But all the teaching staff and leadership team, as well as governors, actually, when we found out, the day that we found out, the staff were still in school up until 9, 10 p.m., just sorting out things, making sure things are done and what have you. So there is commitment, and, it's that desire to actually teach and to ensure that the kids do really well, inshallah.
And it is that's what really makes the difference. It's the quality of teaching. So really, from your own experience, what is it that the teachers have at Warwick Road that makes it that good?
Alhamdulillah, I think they take responsibility, and I hope it's a characteristic which, mashallah, since your time, you instilled in them as well, and it was that, even though these kids are not their children, but actually it feels that they take responsibility for their well-being, their welfare, and it becomes a personal development issue as well. So when it becomes a focus like that, you give it your all, basically. I mean, there are areas where improvements can always be made.
Absolutely, yes.
And there are areas where, we could do things better. Yeah, and then you got to learn. But the other good thing is that we're experimenting with different ideas. We're happy to try something. If it doesn't work, we can say, actually, that didn't work. Why didn't it work? And I think that sort of, reflexiveness is really important.
Do you think I know Warwick Road School has quite a large proportion of teachers who are from the Asian background and from Muslim background. Do you think that has any bearing in the quality of teaching and on the outcomes?
I think it hopefully shouldn't do, but I think obviously because we've all got a vested interest in the community and what have you, and because some of the teachers are local teachers and things like that, it gives them a more stronger impetus to do things. So, they'll go the extra mile and what have you. So, on one side, it shouldn't really matter whether they're Muslim or not, or Asian or not, or whatever. I would expect that as the chair of governors. I would expect that from any sort of qualified professional in that capacity.
But what about in terms of the linguistics, for instance, being able to understand the children's language background and the cultural background, the religious background,
Definitely.
which you might not get in the same way as you would from, say,
Yeah.
an indigenous teacher, to use that phrase.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I think having that sort of background history and narrative and understanding, does help. So you can understand certain behaviours, you can see things that are wrong, basically, hopefully, and from that, you can act upon it, inshallah. So yeah, it gives you an advantage, definitely, it gives you an advantage.
I mean, what role do you play as Chair of Governors in terms of making sure the quality of teaching is excellent?
Okay. I suppose the role of the governing body overall is, I suppose if you deal with that first, is we're the critical friends of the senior leadership team. Yeah, the governing body in any given school, are all volunteers. So we don't get paid or anything like that. We give up our time freely, and mashallah, we're one or two of the governors within the governing body. I'd just like to mention, I know going off slightly.
Oh no, feel free.
Is mashallah, some of the local brothers may already know the individual, Aziz Darji. And also Steve, who was another governor there as well.
Is Aziz still the governor there?
Aziz has actually just stepped down from the governing body after 25 years of actually dedicated time, effort and energy. And Steve also...
Aziz stepped down as well?
Steve's also stepped down as well.
Two very long-standing governors there.
Steve,
particularly Aziz, has been there, like you said, over 25 years.
Yeah. And Steve, I think, is about 20-odd years
yes.
and what have you. And there are 3-4 other governors who have been there for good 10, 15, 20 years. Yeah. And I think the role of the governing body has always been to be the critical friend, the voluntary sort of other voice to say, well, what's happening here? Can we do things better? Is this effective? Can we change things and things like that? Now, over the last couple of years, though, the governing body's role is or has been changing quite drastically. Whereas previously, you were sort of just not in a negative way, sort of rubber stamping the head teachers' sort of decisions. Yeah, now you're taking on more of a constructive role because legally there is a legal imperative.
Absolutely,
legally, you're responsible. It's essentially like you're directors of a company.
This is what I've said to sort of parents and to a lot of people in the past, that, although I was the head, the school doesn't actually belong to me.
No.
The school belongs to the parents, the pupils, and, the buck really stops with the governors.
Yes, it does. It does. From a legal perspective and legal point of view, the governing body is responsible for the achievement and the functioning of the school. So, for instance, like you said, make sure the grades and the targets and things like that are met. And the other single important thing is the financial stability of the school.
Absolutely, yes.
And those are the two elements.
Are they getting value for money?
Yes. Those are the two strategic points that the governing body legally is responsible for. Then there's also the welfare and the safeguarding and things like that.
Yeah, and in fact, in terms of the behaviour and safety of pupils at the school, that was marked as outstanding,
yes.
I believe.
Yep.
And that's really brilliant, isn't it?
It is.
What is the school doing to make it that?
I think it's a partnership.
Because behaviour is so important, isn't it? Getting that behaviour right.
And the respect that the kids have. And I think that's going back to how the parents are with the kids as well. There's a real sort of desire for the kids to actually learn and to do better. Yeah, and the kids actually follow that throughout their school life, hopefully. I think, just going back to your original question about the governing body and the role of the chair, the role of the chair specifically is to oversee sort of the different elements of the whole governing body. Yeah, so we're not micromanaging the head teacher. It's not about making sure the head teacher is doing every single thing that we want the head teacher to do. No, it's not about that. It's about sort of us working in partnership with the head teacher and giving the head teacher the responsibility, but then asking the head teacher, well, explain the rationale. How did you come to that decision? Is it financially suitable for the school? Is it achieving the results, and asking those type of questions?
Really providing that challenge, isn't it? Really?
Yes, it's that critical sort of questioning, and within that role is ensuring that the school achieves well, has new experiences for the kids, and makes them ready, particularly for the next school and wider society. Really.
So just to go back a little bit, Brother Wajid, tell me how you got into it in the first place.
Oh, wow.
How did you become a parent governor? And then, more importantly, how did you get into being chair of the school, chair of governors of the school?
How I became parent governor is, I think I knocked on your door and said, hang on a minute, I'm a bit concerned here. And it does start that way. And, not focusing just on the governing body, throughout my life, when I was in university, actually, what happened is there's an organisation called FOSIS, which supports the Islamic societies and things like that. And I remember one of the things I did was I sent an email to the head of FOSIS, and I said, look, I'm unhappy about the prayer rooms, I'm unhappy about this, that, and the other. And I listed to him a whole list of issues and problems. And one of the things this brother said to me is a very close friend of mine, so I won't tell you who he is, but he said to me, actually, you know what? I recognize your concerns, I understand your concerns, but come and help us. Yeah? I'm not downplaying your concerns, but come and help us. And it's the same thing from the school, really. I remember knocking on your door and saying, well, actually, you know what?
Quite a few times, I believe. I understand.
I
remember.
Oh, yes. My wife and I were regular visitors to your office, if I remember rightly.
But absolutely, I think that's what makes a difference.
Yes.
Is parents taking that interest, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if they've got any concerns, they're going to do something about it.
So it was an initial personal concern, obviously, because my children go to that school as well. And but from the concern was actually, hang on a minute, can I assist you? Can I assist you? Can I help in any way? Yeah. And I was happy to give my time. But at the back of that was the knowledge that actually it's an amana. From an Islamic point of view, I remember when I became chair of the governors, I gave this sort of because I was a bit worried about, oh my God, how am I going to cope with all this? But I gave this little speech about, actually, this is an amana. Yeah. It's a trust. Yeah, and particularly on a primary school, this is where the young people, this is the future generation of the Muslim Ummah. Yeah, if we're solely talking about the Muslim Ummah, it's the future generation. And it's a responsibility on all of us, not just the governing body, not just every single parent, every single individual. It's a responsibility, if you have knowledge, if you have experience, to utilize that knowledge and experience for the betterment. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you that. So that was the reason why I joined. And then how I became the actual chair was, I was the vice chair, and then actually Aziz stepped down. And then from there, actually, I'm just going to interrupt you for a minute, my brother. We're going to take a short break. We'll come back to that question after this short break. So don't go away, listeners. We'll be back with you in just a couple of minutes.
Online and on your home receiver, you're listening to Radio IMWS. Join the women-only over 50s elderly lunch club every Monday from 12 p.m. till 3 p.m. at the Al Hikmah Center. Enjoy a meal in the company of friends as well as gentle exercise routines, including the use of treadmills and exercise bikes. That's the over 50s elderly lunch club every Monday from 12 p.m. till 3 p.m. at the Al Hikmah Center on 28 Track Road, Batley, WF177AA. For more information, call 01924 500 555. Reach your customers through our radio, magazines and website with competitive rates advertising on Radio IMWS, Pegam, An-Nisa and the IMWS website could give your business the boost it deserves. For more details, email info@imws.org.uk or call 01924 500 555. It is related by Sayyidina Anas radiallahu anhu that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, when a man marries, he has completed half of his religion, so let him fear Allah regarding the remaining half. The Al-Hikmah Nikah service launched by the IMWS aims to introduce prospective marriage partners to help fulfill this important aspect of faith. The service is open to unmarried Muslims who are permanent residents of the UK. For more information, visit our website at www.imws.org.uk. Radio IMWS.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Dear listeners, we're back again. It's Radio IMWS, and this is the Education Matters broadcast from Al-Hikmah Centre. And once again, listeners, can I just remind you, if you want to join in the discussion and debate, please phone in 01924 505629, or you may text or WhatsApp us on 0746 080 9218. In the studio tonight, we've got with us Brother Wajid Khan, who is the chair of Warwick Road Primary School. Now, Brother Wajid, just before the break, we were talking about how you became the chair of governors at Warwick Road.
Yeah.
And I had to interrupt you before because of the break. But do carry on, please.
No. I was just saying, because I was the vice chair in the previous year.
Yeah, you carry on.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I'll just get you a drink. Just have another short break in the meantime.
Online and on your home receiver, you're listening to Radio IMWS. Join the women-only over 50s elderly lunch club every Monday from 12 p.m. till 3 p.m. at the Al-Hikmah Centre. Enjoy a meal in the company of friends as well as gentle exercise routines, including the use of treadmills and exercise bikes. That's the over 50s elderly lunch club every Monday from 12 p.m. till 3 p.m. at the Al-Hikmah Centre on 28 Track Road, Batley, WF177AA. For more information, call 01924 500 555. Reach your customers through our radio, magazines and website with competitive rates advertising on Radio IMWS, Pegam, An-Nisa and the IMWS website could give your business the boost it deserves. For more details, email info@imws.org.uk or call 01924 500 555. It is related by Sayyidina Anas radiallahu anhu that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, when a man marries, he has completed half of his religion, so let him fear Allah regarding the remaining half. The Al-Hikmah Nikah service launched by the IMWS aims to introduce prospective marriage partners to help fulfill this important aspect of faith. The service is open to unmarried Muslims who are permanent residents of the UK. For more information, visit our website at www.imws.org.uk. Radio IMWS.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Sorry about that, listeners. Brother Wajid is still with us.
Just about, yeah.
I think something went down the wrong throat, but mashallah, alhamdulillah, it's fine. And we're back with you. So once again, we've got Brother Wajid Khan with us, who is the chair of Warwick Road Primary School in Batley. And listeners, if you wish to join in the discussion, or if you wish to ask a question, please phone 01924 505629, or you may text or WhatsApp us with your questions on 0746 080 9218. Brother Wajid, how are you feeling now?
Alhamdulillah. Apologies. Sorry, I've just been talking most of the day, so what do you call it? Yeah.
Right, mashallah, you're back with us in good sound.
Oh, yes,
right.
Definitely.
I was asking you just before the break about how you became the chair of governors.
Basically, I became the vice chair in the previous year, so I became the chair in January 2013. I mean, Aziz actually stepped down in, I think it was in 2012. No, hang on. Yes. 2012.
It might be, yeah, just end of 2012, 2013 probably.
Yeah, 2013. So essentially, one of the brothers that was the chair at the time, who became chair, unfortunately had to step down as well.
Right.
And one of the reasons, or the issue, is that this amana, this responsibility, actually takes a lot of time. And unfortunately, you need to think about how much time you can give, and the characteristics and the actual time required to actually come to meetings and things like that. So unfortunately, that brother couldn't make that commitment. So I then stood up and said, "Okay, fine, I'll do it for a year or two."
Because some of the people on the governing body have been governors for a very long time.
Oh, yes.
I know Aziz Daji, he's been a governor for over 25 years, I believe.
Yep, and Steve and some of the other
that's
governors.
Right.
Yeah.
Amazing dedication, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And there's quite a few other governing bodies where individuals have been there for a very long time, who have given that time, and what have you. And I think it is something which I think the local authority needs to recognise.
Absolutely,
because they're all volunteers.
Yeah.
Everyone is a volunteer. Yeah. Nobody actually gets paid or anything. And sometimes you have to sit through quite long, arduous meetings. They could last up till about 10 p.m. or something like that. And the discussions are quite protracted. They're not simple discussions.
No.
And again, you've got that legal responsibility. So I became chair. I thought, okay, I'll step up and do it for a year or two and what have you. I've just been re-elected again as the chair.
Now you're there. You're going to be there for another 25 years, I think.
No, definitely not. I'm a firm believer that, inshallah, once you've done what you can, then it's important to constantly have.
You have that succession plan.
Yeah.
Really.
So no, definitely, I think it's important to constantly have a turnover. But it is a very important thing to understand that being a governor is not just about sitting in the governing body meetings and not really taking a responsibility. I say a lot of things are actually changing. You're becoming a director now, or you're seen as a director. So it's no longer just about, you're a parent, therefore you can be a governor. Yeah. It's also about you becoming a governor and what skills can you bring to the table. Yeah, what attributes can you bring?
It makes a difference, doesn't it?
Oh, yes, definitely. And in our communities, there are individuals with immense skill, untapped skill and resource. And I think it's important for people to recognize the skill that they have and to utilize it, really. And it's also important for... excuse me, my throat seems to be playing up again.
Have a drink. And you're absolutely right. I think governors need to be very active these days. You must have active, in fact, proactive governors, because, like you said, it's an enormous responsibility because a lot depends on governors' actions.
Yes, it does. I mean, the environment of the school agenda is constantly changing, and even more so now, particularly for our communities as well. We're constantly under the spotlight. We're constantly being sort of looked at and everything. So it's important that individuals who are articulate, who have necessary skills, can come forward into governing bodies, Because what seems to be happening is some people are very scared now. I mean, I know we're slightly going off topic, but, one thing I was talking to some friends about and some scholars about was that actually... there'll be a time where a truth becomes false and the false becomes truth. This is incredibly true of the environment that we're in now. I mean, clearly I'm talking about the Trojan horse thing about governing bodies and things like that.
So what sort of an impact has that made on Warwick Road School, for example?
I think it's not been a huge issue per se, because obviously, within the school environment, because we're a primary school anyway, the agenda's slightly different, and I don't think it's had a huge sort of say. I think what we have had to do is think about balancing things. In our communities particularly, people get very, if I'm being very open and candid with you, in our communities, people do get a bit frustrated and think, oh my God, this is happening or that's happening and things like that. One thing we have to remember is that Warwick Road is a safe environment for our community kids to develop.
That's right, yes.
And what have you. Now, we need to be balanced in that approach. We need to recognize that, there is a wider community. And we need to give these kids the skill and the understanding that once they leave the junior school, they're going to interact with different children from different backgrounds, different religions and what have you. So it's about having a balance and taking the middle path.
Absolutely, yes.
I mean, within Warwick Road, for instance, there is a religious assembly and there are normal assemblies, which obviously, as you're aware, have taken place for a very long time. There's, because of the staff and understanding that the pupils have and the families have around the religious sort of sentiments in school, you've got a bit of flexibility. But you don't push that flexibility out where you restrict the understanding and the experience of the
absolutely
kids.
right. I think we've got to look at it in a broader sense and equip our pupils, our children, to be able to sort of confront the wider world. What happens after they leave school, after they leave the primary school. They'll be in a different setting, into high schools, into secondary schools. And beyond that, there's a wider world, and we've got to sort of equip pupils to be able to cope with that wider world.
Yeah, definitely. And
but at the same time, I know, as educationists, we've always seen sort of schools as an extension of our community.
Yeah.
Especially in primary schools.
Yeah.
To make children feel more comfortable, make them have a sense of pride and instill that passion for them for learning, through recognizing their own worth, as it were.
Yeah, and I think definitely it was a central theme within Warwick Road, and it is a central theme, in Warwick Road, that's what it's about. It's recognizing who you are. And it's recognizing, your place in a community and what have you. And one of the things that we've recently sort of developed on is this notion that when you ask a child, what do you want to be? What do you want to do in the future? There was a real problem. Some of them were like, oh, I don't know, and this, that, and the other. There wasn't really... some of them, not just Warwick Road, this is just generically everywhere, You ask particularly a UK child, it doesn't matter, Asian, white, whatever, you ask them about what they want to do or aspire to, and they will say, oh, I'm not sure, I can't be bothered, this, that, and the other. Whereas you look at an African child or a third world country per se, and you ask them what you want to do or what you want to be, and these are kids that have nothing. And they will say, right, I want to be in charge of the UN. I want to be in charge of this. I want to be in charge of that. And it was the aspiration bit.
We haven't got that in this country, have we?
No, there seems to be, and even more so for our community. And it's very sad, specifically talking about Muslims and what have you. The Muslim are the leaders, or were the leaders of science, of religious education, whatever, and all these areas. And because we've lost that aspiration, we've lost that identity, we're sort of lagging behind everything.
But then I can remember when I was a young child, our parents always wanted us to become doctors. So there was that high expectation in sort of many Asian families. Maybe slightly misplaced. But nevertheless, the aspirations were there. And even now, I think if you talk to many parents, what do you want your child to be? They'll still say something like a doctor, for instance.
Yes. Yeah, the parents definitely, the parents will pharmacist, doctor, lawyer, solicitor, whatever, those type. But to translate that to the actual child, there is a huge mismatch.
Yeah.
There is a huge mismatch. And you see that with the number of young people actually... entering into college and entering into higher education and what have you.
But do we need to change that mindset, or do you think there's nothing wrong with that?
I think from a parent's point of view, you could carry on thinking doctor, this, that, and the other. But with the kids, I think it's not, they're not understanding that. They're not linking in. with the parents.
Because I believe what children need is they need a range of experiences while they're at school. So they've got an insight into, the roles of and responsibilities of various sort of professions and various sort of jobs, for instance.
Yeah.
So they have a working understanding of that. Are we not providing that for children?
I don't think we are, to an extent. I mean, and this goes back to encouraging local people who, like there's so many brothers I know that are in professional jobs, very influential professional jobs, and, we're always asking them, can you volunteer? Can you do this? Can you do that? And I know they're quite busy and everything, and each to their own. Yeah. But it's about bringing them back into the community, coming into schools. Because I was asked to do a talk at Paradise School. And I sort of said, okay, you know what? I've got this clinic, but I will come down.
Yeah.
And it's sort of doing that.
Right.
Really.
I know, those sort of things were happening. While I was head, I know we had, visitors to school from various professions to come and speak to pupils. And at the same time, I know there was one particular year group who, visited the Manchester University every year to show them, what happens in higher education. So it's those kind of things that builds children's knowledge and understanding about the wider world, and also at the same time about what they can develop themselves into and aspire to. Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's looking at these experiences and expanding them, really.
Very much so. Yes.
And I think within our communities, because obviously the other thing about our communities is obviously you've got the school, then you've got the madrasa, and it's a very long day for our children. It's a very long day,
yes.
and it's sort of looking at what we can and can't do within that framework, because no parents are going to say, oh well, I don't want my child to go to madrasa or anything like that. So it's kind of trying to balance it out, because the kids have a hugely long day.
I mean, how do you develop good links with your local madrasas?
Alhamdulillah, mashallah, on our governing body, there's quite a few of the brothers that are linked to the different masjids as well.
Mashallah, good,
So that's one way, but it's also about having that open communication, really. I mean, if you think particularly about Warwick Road School, when we're organising trips and things like that, it's, the trips are then done in conjunction with the madrasa, because they might have exams on things like that. So there is that open dialogue and communication. I think one thing I'd like to say is, I'm not going to name names or anything, but I had a slight incident with one parent who came to me, and she was quite upset, and I asked her, I will always listen to any concerns that parents have and everything. She was quite upset. She said, oh, the school isn't Islamic enough.
Right, okay.
And I said to her, okay, carry on, tell me what your concern is. And she said, oh, well, this has changed that. And she listed a whole range of things from her perspective that she felt were changing and were detrimental to the school, one of them being, the idea of Christmas and this, that, the other, the idea of it being, not in our religion and things like that. And I said to her, okay, fine. And then I said to her, look, and I was very candid with her, like I'm being now. And I said, look, actually, it's a state school. It's not an Islamic school. That's one point, which we need to understand, and especially in this current climate. Yeah. But the other element was actually, are you concerned about what your child's going to understand by these processes? And if so, do you need assistance in talking to your child about these elements? Because I said, look, the school's job is to widen that experience, but your job and the madrasa's job is to teach them that Islamic tarbiyah. It's not the school's responsibility. The school's responsibility is just to give them that breadth of experience. And then the parents and I said, look, we can assist you in that, because obviously from our backgrounds. So that opens a different discussion, really.
Okay, we'll come back to that point in a couple of minutes, because we're going to take another short break. So listeners, please don't go away. We'll be back in a short while.
Online and on your home receiver, you're listening to Radio IMWS. Join the women-only over 50s elderly lunch club every Monday from 12 p.m. till 3 p.m. at the Al Hikmah Center. Enjoy a meal in the company of friends as well as gentle exercise routines, including the use of treadmills and exercise bikes. That's the over 50s elderly lunch club every Monday from 12 p.m. till 3 p.m. at the Al Hikmah Center on 28 Track Road, Batley, WF177AA. For more information, call 01924 500 555. Reach your customers through our radio, magazines and website with competitive rates. Advertising on Radio IMWS, Pegam, An-Nisa and the IMWS website could give your business the boost it deserves. For more details, email info@imws.org.uk or call 01924 500 555. It is related by Sayyidina Anas radiallahu anhu that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, when a man marries, he has completed half of his religion, so let him fear Allah regarding the remaining half. The Al-Hikmah Nikah service launched by the IMWS aims to introduce prospective marriage partners to help fulfill this important aspect of faith. The service is open to unmarried Muslims who are permanent residents of the UK. For more information, visit our website at www.imws.org.uk. Radio IMWS.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Listeners, welcome back. It's the Education Matters show, and we have Brother Wajid Khan, who is the chair of Warwick Road Primary School. I should say chair of governors of Warwick Road Primary Schools. Listeners, if you want to call in, please phone 01924 505629, or if you want to text us or WhatsApp with your questions, the telephone number is 0746 080 9218. Right, welcome back, Brother Wajid. Our last 15 or so minutes with us. And just before the break, we're talking about the place of sensitive issues in school, like, for instance, religious education. And we've come a long way. I mean, I remember when I was teaching 25 odd years ago, there was a time when nearly every Muslim child withdrew from RE because there was an issue in Kirklees.
Yeah.
So and I know when I started at Warwick Road and even the school I was there before, there were no Muslim children taking RE because they exercised their right to withdraw from religious education and from, assemblies that were deemed sort of not Islamic. So we've come a long way. Now I think a lot of parents do have an understanding that, the pupils do need to learn as much as possible about other cultures because it will help them in their future life. The concern, I think, with many parents at primary school level is they think the child is too young to cope with religious aspects of diverse cultures, and they want to sort of let their children grow a little bit older before they have that exposure.
I think, and I can understand that as well, and I think that this is why I reiterated to the respective sister that actually, you as a parent need to have that discussion then with that child, and make it a non-issue.
Yeah.
Make it a non-issue. I remember going into school. I was at Carlton Road School, for instance. I remember I actually used to look forward to the Christmas parties and what have you. You used to get gifts and everything, and it was part and parcel of that environment, And I was like really sucked into it. But I think as parents, we want our children to have the right foundation, and we want them to understand what the issues are in the world and everything. And the way we do that is we make it a non-issue.
Absolutely.
Our deen is strong enough to withstand any of these issues, irrespective of what's going on. I mean that's the issue.
I think what it is with a lot of Muslim parents, what schools have to do is they've got to build that confidence and that trust in the school so that parents feel that when we are teaching religious education of a broad, wide nature, we are going to do it properly.
Yes.
We're not going to sort of, brainwash them or sort of make them sort of convert or into another religion, something like that.
It's not
about indoctrination. It's that, I think that is the issue with a lot of Muslim parents. They need to feel that confidence and that trust in the school, because a lot of the issues that they raise, and I know they've raised in the past with me, is about certain aspects of religious education or certain aspects of worship, for instance, that they feel might not be appropriate as a Muslim. They think it may be leading to sort of a shirk, for example.
Yeah.
So those were the issues. But as soon as they felt confident in the school and what we were trying to do and how we were doing it, I think a lot of parents didn't have an issue.
And I think one of the key things you've just mentioned is that having that confidence and that communication really with the school, irrespective whether it's Warwick Road or any school, whichever parent is, if you have a concern or an issue with any school, or you're concerned about, it is your right to go have a discussion with the teacher and have a discussion and understand what they're actually teaching. So I think a lot of it is around the miscommunication, because I think a lot of parents get misinformed about what is actually happening and things like that. And when you start to have an open dialogue with the teacher and you yourself actually meet the teacher, because you don't have to wait for parents' evenings, as you probably know. I mean, I was at your office. I was at your office all the time, practically, me and my wife, because we wanted to know more. We were asking you questions about, actually, what is this about? What is this about?
Yeah.
And that did not contradict our Islamic understanding of the things, and we knew, actually, you know what, you're not... It's not going to go on to shirk or anything like that.
No, because our parents fall back to their own experiences when they were young at school, and they think it's still the same.
Yeah.
And if we haven't sort of, let them know about what the practice is in school, they'll think it's what it was like when they were young.
Yes, yeah, and a lot of things have changed. The curriculum's changing. There's a lot more scope for individual sort of topics and areas and things like that. And the other thing is, your child is at this school 5-6 hours a day, 4 or 5 hours a day, whatever it is, depending on how old they are. This is where their ideas are formulated.
Very much so, yes.
And when they move to high school, college, our madrasas and our masjids and everything, are really weak in this area, because we don't have that time with the young people to help them formulate their identity. And it's important that they sort of get that structure at home as well, because the other place they're going to be is at home. And so I said to this sister particularly that, look, if you're worried, we can help you with that conversation that you can have at home, though, and at the madrasa and at the masjid, because that's the place where, that foundation, particularly for the young kids in the primary schools, this is where that playful conversation needs to occur, because the schools have an open agenda. Their idea is to give them the breadth of experience and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things have changed in madrasas now to what it was like when we were young.
Yeah,
and I feel that they actually complement what goes on in school, and vice versa.
Yeah,
nowadays I think nearly all the madrasas, the teaching medium is English. So there is a lot going on in madrasas that is common to what's happening in school, and good madrasas will actually benefit schools and children's progress at school, because they will complement each other.
Well, you were talking about the behaviour and,
absolutely,
and what have you. A lot of that is actually because a lot of the kids, the respect element comes from the madrasa. The sort of way they respect the ustads and the teachers, it flows through, and vice versa. You have that sort of recognition and respect. And,
absolutely, yes.
And you see that in the pupils.
It's one of the things I miss about Warwick Road School. The children were so respectful. Every morning, you've got children coming to you and saying, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah.
What more would you want on a daily basis?
Exactly. And I think it's testing times out there, particularly for schools that have predominantly Muslim kids in their attendance and everything, It's testing times for Muslim governors, particularly.
Absolutely, yes.
Because what you have is we touched upon the Trojan horse thing and what have you. You have an environment where people are now specifically looking at, well, are you becoming too Islamic? Are you becoming this? Are you becoming that? And there's a danger of going to the complete opposite side where you don't recognize the identity of the pupils that you have in your school. And then you go to the other side where you become so narrow-minded and destructive.
And it's to have that balance.
No,
isn't it?
it's the key thing is about the balance, and the other thing is to if you're a parent at any school or anything like that, communicate with the teachers, communicate with the head, go see the head, have that communication with the head, and hold them accountable, because they are accountable to you. It's not the other way around. The head is accountable to you, although the governing body is there, but ultimately the parents are the ones that have the ability to say, well, hang on a minute, can you explain this? And take your time.
Absolutely, yes.
Take your time. Don't rush. I've always advised parents, look, if you have a concern or a comment, it doesn't have to be a concern. If you're happy about something, go share it with the teacher. Say, actually, my kid came home that other day. I mean, a parent came to me that other day and said, actually, my kid came home that other day and started talking to me about, that she wants to write and she wants to paint and things like that. And I was like, Alhamdulillah, this is good.
Now, mashallah, I think, the governors at Warwick School are doing an excellent job. And we've got, like you said, we've got to get education right.
Yes.
And especially at primary level.
Yeah.
Because that's your foundation.
Definitely.
And that's why we need more committed, passionate people who will become governors.
Yes.
How do you encourage people to become governors, Brother Wajid?
I think, like I said, the governing body is changing now. It's also about the skill set that you have. Yeah. So it's also looking at what can you contribute. Yeah. So a bit like what vacancies there are, like a job advert, really. So there'll be like a job spec, really, with the governor, with any sort of vacancy. And I think it's important as a parent or as a professional, say, well, actually, you know what, I've got this skill. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me this knowledge and understanding. Therefore, I need to share this. And if it benefits the school, the time commitment, it's once every couple of months. You might have to attend additional meetings, come into school, at times. But you diary it, you diary it and you try to work around it. It's not set in stone, but, you've got flexibility to do this. So any individual that's thinking of becoming a governor, definitely, if you're a parent and at a school and you want to be a governor, go speak to the head teacher, have a discussion, see what they're like. You can observe a governing body.
Excellent.
You can actually come along and ask the head teacher, and the head teacher will ask the chair of governors that actually, somebody is thinking of joining. Can they observe a meeting? The meetings, I don't see a problem with that personally. They can come along to parts of a meeting and what have you.
How many meetings are there?
I think at the moment there. It depends very much on the governing body, and depends. I mean, before Ofsted, we were sort of having additional meetings and things like that. But
can you believe? Yes.
It's relatively. I think it's every half term there is one governing body meeting. Yeah, and attached to that, governors have additional responsibilities for like safeguarding.
Right. Yeah.
Some governors have responsibilities for different year groups and things like that. So that's their individual responsibilities. And what they've got to do is, at least within that half term or term, they have to at least visit the school, have a discussion with teachers within that area, and see, get feedback from the teachers that how are things progressing and everything. Because in the end of the day, you are accountable to the progress and the development within that school.
Okay. I mean, you're absolutely right. We need more governors, and we need governors with the right skill set.
Definitely.
I mean, as chair of governors of Warwick Road Primary School, have you set some priorities for yourself, for the next year?
I think what we're looking at is to move the school, because a lot of schools, like you said, sometimes get really bogged down on the targets and things like that. I mean, one of the key focuses of the school is to widen the experiences of the kids, to look at what they can achieve rather than what they can't do, or, I can't do this, can't do that. What we're also, the personal target for me is I would really like, a lot more young kids to be reading, to be understanding things, the comprehension bit of the reading. Yeah. So it's not just about being the ability to read. It's
our kids are very good at reading mechanically.
Yes.
Without always not understand, not comprehending what they're reading.
And it's the comprehension and the critical understanding.
Absolutely, yes.
Is that's my sort of personal thing. I really want to, because that will stand them in good stead. Because not talking directly about Warwick Road School, but in my experiences in my work or also in my other voluntary roles and what have you, you find a lot of young people, particularly Asian young people, who can't get jobs and what have you, who are stuck in different ruts, and their language skills, their constructive thinking, critical thinking, their ability to write things down, to construct arguments, and to be able to reply to arguments and defend things is very poor. It is very, very poor, and it's very challenging, irrespective of whether they've gone to university or not. Actually, ironically, the young people I've met some have gone to university have equally struggled.
Right. So as governors, how do you make sure that children are reading well at school?
It's about sort of, particularly for Warwick Road, for instance, spending a lot more money and resources on the availability of books. And it's also about, looking at the literature that the kids are reading, looking at how they're reading it, how they're understanding it, working with the teachers and saying, well, actually, what is this child trying to say to you? Getting them to construct, in their words, what is happening in the books is actually quite a good way. And so the teachers are doing that, and it's part of the curriculum anyway now. And it's just monitoring that, really, and encouraging it more. I mean, a lot of young kids in Warwick Road, for instance, get 2-3 books. And we're encouraging, the families to use the library. Also, a lot of kids now have the internet and everything, so they can go online and get the e-books as well. So if you go onto the Warwick Road website, you can click on the e-book thingies, and you can download e-books as well.
Excellent. Brother Wajid, we come to the end of our program, and I know we haven't finished our discussions.
No, we could... I know you had a list of questions for me.
I did, and barely halfway through. So that means you're going to have to come back again sometime.
Well, no, inshallah, no problem, inshallah.
Well, first of all, and lastly, really, a big thank you, Jazakallah khair, for your time. And wish you all the best in your role as Chair of Governors, and wish Warwick Road School continued success. And I hope they will continue to go from strength to strength. Mashallah. Many congratulations again on the excellent Ofsted inspection report. Thank you very much. So listeners, we've come to the end of another of our Education Matters program. Inshallah, we'll see you again in a fortnight's time. But until then, remember us in your du'as and your prayers and your supplications. May Allah Ta'ala keep everybody safe and sound. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.